you start by defining a topic like content refresh. I know it's a bit meta, stick with me, okay? It's a bit meta, but you define a topic like content refresh, and we set a threshold to have the topic be at least 2 words long, just so that we avoid these super broad topics, right? Your topical authority for SEO is just, or for CRM or something of these big shot topics, it's just much, much harder to monitor or to analyze, and probably only relevant for a few sites. But let's look at actually my site. This is my email. Now you can all email me, and let's run this thing through. So it goes through a couple of steps. As you see, we have 23 steps here that I'll double click into in just a moment, that it might take a couple of minutes to run through. But while this is running, again, this is a tool to basically help you understand if you need to invest in more content in that space, meaning in that topic specifically, or if you need to refresh some content in that space. We're going to come back to just the whole methodology and reasoning about refreshes. And then lastly, we also factored in your backlink profile. So when I'll double click on the skeleton behind this thing in just a moment, you'll see that we factor in your backlink profile from SEMrush, and we're making it very topical. So topical means we make sure that we regard the anchor text for that topic. We also look at your competitors, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to give this just a second to finish here, and I'm going to show you what this looks like under the hood. See if I can actually open another tab. Beautiful. Okay, we'll just do that. We'll come back to it. Maybe that keeps the suspense high. Okay, so this is the workflow under the hood. You see it goes through a bunch of steps and loops. All of this you can build yourself in AirOps if you want, or you can use this specific workflow as a power step or as a template to connect it to some of your other templates and power steps. We've built 2 so far, so you can be super creative with this. Now, when I open all of these fields, I'm not going to go through each of the steps, but I want to get to a couple. The first one, we're just looking at the right country to make sure we're getting the accurate data, getting the correct date, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of kind of hygiene happening in the first couple of steps. That's where we filter it down to 2 words. And then some cool stuff starts to happen. So this is where we leverage the SEMrush API to look at your traffic and the URLs that are relevant for this topic to see how are they performing right now and how well is it going. We pull more URLs from your site related to the topic. We get all their keywords. Let's see, we look at the backlink profile here, very detailed. We have an authority score. We have total number of backlinks, referring domains. So you can see there's a lot of detail here, lots of variables to get to a good result. That stuff happens a bunch of times. We remove some kind of noise from the data. We focus on the top 10 related keywords just to keep the signal high and make sure that the recommendations are good. We then scrape the search results a bunch of times. Again, this is a loop that runs through all of the data that we've collected so far. Then we look at your top 3 competitors based on that specific topic. So you might not see the top 3 domains that you typically compete with for certain topics. It can vary, but this is highly topically filtered. And then we're doing the same thing again, where we get all that data for them as well. We clean it up a little bit, and then out comes the final output. We have to make sure we format that correctly. And that's pretty much the end. So 62 steps, or maybe a bit more in total. And that all should lead to this result. Great timing, AirOps. Thank you. What you see here is essentially my topical authority score for the topic content refresh. Not the highest as you see right now, but I will say I'm competing with some big brands here, so I can live with that result. What we cover in this report is a bunch of metrics. There's some explanation here of how this all comes together, but we'll show you how well I and other sites here are covering the most important subtopics. Something like maybe you want to talk about a content calendar when it comes to content refreshes. Maybe you want to talk about coverage gaps, right? Like all this stuff seems to be better covered on competitors. We're looking into backlinks, and then we give some recommendations about how do you actually move the needle up on this. So it's not just a report for the most technical people or in the weeds people. This should actually be something that you can very quickly also forward to maybe your leader, or maybe craft a slide deck out of. And then lastly, we're actually giving you legit URLs that rank for keywords in that topic that you should consider updating. And we even give you some specific subtopics that these URLs are lacking. So after this webinar, I'm going to go back to my site and add some more content. But all joking aside, that's the content, that's the output. You get it all broken down very clearly. You can quickly copy paste this to a Google Doc if you want to share it with other people, or share it straight out of AirOps. And then the best thing about this is you can just click on edit workflow, customize it to your needs and wants, and you can connect it to other workflows and then build the craziest grids and workflows that the earth has ever seen. So that is how this works. So whenever I build a workflow in AirOps, I often learn something new or a different way to think about a problem, because I was never forced to be that specific and precise. So the framework that we use is basically a very simple formula out of 3 variables. The first one being content coverage. So, basically for a topic, how many pages do you have and what do they target? The second variable is how well they do that. And the third variable is how that's supported with backlinks and references from other sites, which is more of the authority piece. We weighted each of these variables. We broke them down into subvariables and data sources and ways to stitch all of that together. And out of that came this workflow. One thing that I really like to do also is to go to Figma or FigJam and Miro and just jot down all the steps that it takes for this workflow to run through. Because from that abstraction to AirOps, it's a very short step. And you have the Copilot here on the left-hand side that you can basically chat with in native language, in English probably, and just it helps you build this workflow. It will make changes to the actual code and script, right? So it can look a little bit intimidating when you see it the first time, but when you have your workflow mapped out and even PowerPoint, and then you take that to AirOps with help from the Copilot, you make traction very quickly.